Hello Internet, welcome back to the Trumps of Twilight, the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you about music, movies, books that I enjoy, that I find interesting, or a combination of the two. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the new single from the band Pulp, and especially the video. Before that, I just want to say that the second half of my video about 10 disturbing books is basically finished. I'm going to be publishing it on Wednesday, so look out for that. It's coming in the middle of the week. I'm here just to talk a little bit more off the cuff because okay, I was a huge Pulp fan when I was in my teens. I remember the first time I encountered them was in 1995 when the song Misfits came out, and Misfits was a song about being a kind of bookish, curious, artistic, working class kid in an environment where you could get your head kicked in for being that kind of kid. And it addressed those people directly. And it said basically, right now, you might feel like you're on the bottom of the social hierarchy, but in the future, it'll be about it'll be all about you. We are gonna inherit the future, and it won't be about fighting. It'll be about using your mind. And in the video, it kind of showed the singer of the band, Jarvis Cocker, as both a kind of like aggressive, hard lad kind of guy and a sort of bookish, geeky kid who was more similar maybe to Jarvis Cocker as a real person. And for me, as a teenager, growing up in a working class area of Swindon in the UK, this song was like the first time anybody addressed me culturally in the way that that song did. So even though the music of Pulp initially wasn't the kind of thing I was necessarily that attracted to, there was something about this perspective that really sold me on the band. And I got the album when it came out, A Different Class, and I loved it. And I remember that the um, promotional material for the album, A Different Class, had a lot of black and white cardboard cutouts of the band members posed with real people. So, like color photographs of these black and white figures standing around in different places. It was really creative, it was really beautiful. I remember going to HMV and just looking at the posters where they had different versions of this. And I remember looking at the inlay of the album a lot when I got it. I remember reading all of the lyrics, and I just really thought that the perspective was of the whole thing was just so beautiful. And Jarvis Cocker also, he had this kind of he would talk about drugs, and he would talk about drinking, and he would talk about sex, but he didn't have this laddish macho kind of style that a lot of the other people in the kind of indie rock UK scene had at the time. That was something that I found kind of alienating. Also, the same year, the Beatles released a single. It was their first single since they split up. They'd used new technology to isolate John Lennon's vocals and to record overdubs, and they'd got Paul McCartney singing in the background, kind of doing the John Lennon impression. They released this song called Free as a Bird, and at the time, the UK was in the midst of a 60s nostalgia because the Britpop scene looked back to the 60s a great deal, to the Beatles especially, and also the Kinks, um, to a lesser extent the Rolling Stones. So it was the perfect time for the Beatles to release this anthology collection and to release this single, Free as a Bird, and they had like an animated video for it. This was all over MTV, it was all over the radio. And I was a teenager, 13, 14. I remember adults in their 40s being like, "Oh, have you heard the new Beatles single?" Everybody was really excited about it. Everybody on the TV was talking about it. And I, as a teenager who didn't have this nostalgic connection to the Beatles at all, I mean, I grew up listening to rock music, but I was into like uh, Pink Floyd, Queen, heavier rock, prog rock, Genesis, Peter Gabriel. So I didn't care about the Beatles, and I could hear that this song, Free as a Bird, wasn't very good. And even if you like the Beatles, I don't think you could argue that it was like one of the better Beatles songs. So the whole phenomenon to me was embarrassing. It was like, this is just riding on nostalgia. Like the Beatles had made a contribution, but now all of these people getting excited about this single that John Lennon didn't even complete. Um, I just kind of found it a little bit gross. And it's one of the first times that I remember thinking, this is not going to be me. Like I'm not going in for this nostalgia thing when I'm older. So Pulp have just released a new song and a new video, and I'm going to link it down in the description. The song, I've listened to it a couple of times. I think it's decent, you know. It sounds like old Pulp, um, but it doesn't sound, not in a way that sounds particularly dated. It kind of leans into more of the timeless aspects of their sound, and it gives me maybe a kind of emotional, warm sense of time having gone by. And it's not like I don't have any great negative reaction. Like I'll be interested to hear their album. I love three Pulp albums. I really like His and Hers. I love A Different Class, and I like This Is Hardcore. I think that that was their really good run, was those three. Um, but I'll listen to it. I've liked some of Jarvis Cocker's solo material. But Jarvis Cocker, the vocalist, songwriter, main driving force behind Pulp, has released this music video to go with it. And he's taken these photographs that I was referencing, which are the black and white cardboard cutouts placed around in situations like looking like they're part of a wedding party, or there's one where one of them is on like a common in London, and there's two people kissing, um, and he's tried to use AI to bring them alive. So the whole video is like these old promotional photographs morphing and moving in these uncanny and grotesque ways, and like classic AI, like there'll be like the wrong hands in the slightly wrong place, or the face changes from being Jarvis Cocker's face to looking more East Asian. And they're doing like stupid TikTok dances. Um, and the whole thing is just visually disgusting. Like it's an affront to aesthetics. It looks awful. It's everything that's wrong with AI. And it's also like a really cheap, lazy misuse of this original photography, which Jarvis Cocker is within his rights to do whatever he wants with the promotional material for his band. But why he would want to take something that was beautiful in the 90s and basically just make a version of it that destroys everything that was interesting about it and meshes it into a a contemporary trend is completely beyond me, unless he's trying to kind of subvert or attack the nostalgic impulse by taking these things and ruining them. And in the video, there's pink text on the screen, and he's saying things like, um, he's acknowledging that it doesn't look good, and he's saying, you know, maybe I need to work on my prompts, and maybe we need to find other ways to come alive. But to me, that's like a complete cop out, because if you think we need to find other ways to come alive, find those. Um, Writing on the screen that the thing you've created looks like shit doesn't make it any less shit. So the video just looks terrible. It's absolute trash. And the frightening thing for me is when I go down in the comments, everybody is just talking about how happy they are that, you know, Pulp is back. and being nostalgic. It's just a massive collection of nostalgic statements and people talking about, back in the 90s, I still felt hopeful, and Pulp is still fantastic after all these years. And I'm like, this is like Free as a Bird 30 years later, exactly 30 years later. It's the same thing 30 years later. We have become the embarrassing generation, harking back to 30 years ago and basically having no expectations to the people who once produced interesting and inspiring works of art. It's just enough that they create anything at all. And I'm upset about that. I remember Pulp's videos always being good, even when the songs weren't great. They always made good videos. And I really just think Jarvis Cocker should have done better. For me, it kind of underlines the degradation that occurs in the nostalgia process, where through a feeling of grief for your lost youth, you stop expecting or demanding the same degree of artistic engagement that made these things meaningful to you in the first place. And that's why you can have 1990s festivals with a list of with a whole lineup of bands who just had shit one-off singles. Um, I really just find the whole thing to be like totally depressing. Now, this channel is not supposed to be a negative channel. Like, I don't consider myself a critic. I want to be an enthusiast. Uh, but I do want to be able to allow myself to talk about some cultural phenomena from time to time. And I think it's worth watching this video and looking at the comments just to see how nostalgia works. It's like a cautionary tale. Having said all of that, I still hold out some hope for the Pulp album. I'm going to listen to it. I hope that the people who listen to it, who buy it, enjoy it. I felt like the last Blur album was a real attempt to actually like make new music, and I think maybe Jarvis Cocker and the rest of the band are going to do that again. I hope so. Um, I'm really just talking about this video as an isolated thing, and I don't want people to think that I'm trying to tear down their favorite band. Okay, thanks for listening to me, and if you found this interesting, check out some of my other videos. If not, take care out there in this big scary world.